we live right now?
We're live.
Oh, we're live once again. Capital letters, L-I-V-E. Hey friends, PC here at Gravity and Oxygen Fitness, Boca Raton, Florida, USA Earth, Milky Way Galaxy. I'm here today with a couple friends. That's Sammy, the spine, and this is Shelly. Shelly, do you have a question?
Yeah, what exactly is your core?
What exactly is your core? Okay, what a great topic here at Turf Talk Tuesday at Gravity and Oxygen. Well, your core is commonly considered your torso, the region of the body that makes up your belly, your lower back, and your mid-back, and everything three-dimensionally all around that, okay? So we can consider, essentially, if we're thinking the body is three-dimensional, then we want to factor in we have muscles that generally are anterior, posterior, muscles that also comprise lateral, and then wrapping all around to provide rotation of our torso. What exactly are the functions of our core? Well, number one, it aligns the spine. Okay, I'll take Shelly here. The muscles of the core align the spine, the rib cage, and the pelvis here. Okay, so we brought Shelly out to demonstrate, coincidentally, all right, she doesn't have any more questions, she may have more later. Okay? Also,
Thought she was gonna fall, sorry.
posture control, okay? So beyond just aligning anatomically to make sure that we're upright, we have the rib cage, the spine, and the pelvis. It also provides control of posture. The muscles of the core make sure that the organs are intact, everything is postured right in the spine, then our relationship of length, the rib cage, the pelvis is in check. Breathing, it's huge. Most people realize that your core muscles play a huge part in breathing because one of the main core stabilizers is your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is a parachute-shaped muscle that resides just under the rib cage and plays a huge part in inhalation and exhalation. So we talk about belly breathing. They do it a lot in yoga and Pilates, and it actually holds a lot of truth, okay? So belly breathing is inhaling through the nose and feeling like your belly is filling up with air. What's happening is the diaphragm is getting out of the way. It's allowing the lungs to expand with that air, and then as we exhale, the diaphragm, through a nice strong exhale, pushes the air out of the lungs, out through the mouth. So your diaphragm is one of your main core muscles, okay? So beyond posture control, alignment, and breathing, we also have compartmentalization of our organs. So we have our intestines, our liver, spleen, pancreas, our stomach. All of these organs are encapsulated behind the dynamic muscles that make up your torso and your core, okay? Movement generation is huge. The only way humans can locomote is if we have that posture stability, and then we can brace to not only accelerate for running in sports, but also doing activity, daily tasks like putting luggage in the overhead compartment of the airplane, or picking up your 4-year-olds from the ground. Okay, these are all aspects of generating movement, and the origins of that movement come from your midsection, okay? And then of course, energy transfer. So that's the dynamic part of your core, is the fact that my ability to transfer weight balanced from one leg to another, and then be able to bend over, go ahead and walk out on my hands and do a push-up, is that transfer of energy from certain aspects. And our brain is in communication with our trunk muscles to let us know where we need to tighten and stabilize. So once again in review, the main functions of our core are breathing, alignment of our spine, rib cage, and pelvis, postural alignment of those three same bony structures, stabilization of your joints, organ compartmentalization, movement generation, and energy transfer. It's a long list, isn't it? Tongue twister there. Okay? Now that we understand where the core is located and what functions it provides, let's talk about which muscles are your core. We mentioned one already, your diaphragm, located directly under the rib cage, a dome-shaped muscle that basically will expand and compress, okay? We have our transverse abdominis. So once again, if we're looking at Shelly from the side, the rib cage is protruded come out while the lungs are harder under here. So the transverse abdominis is essentially two side trunk muscle columns that work like this. So we have tentacles of that muscle that begin anteriorly, they wrap all the way around posteriorly, and then we have tendons that connect to the bones. The crest of your hip, your ilium, all the way up to your rib cage. So these muscles work just like so, and because they're transverse, they can play a part in not only providing rotation of your trunk, but also resisting rotation of your trunk, which we'll get into in a famous quote down the road. We also have our pelvic floor, which is a huge segue talking about our Turf Talk Tuesday conversation for next week about pelvic floor dysfunction post-labor, okay? So your pelvic floor is a group of muscles that will support the bladder. Now, generally, with females, this pelvic floor is compromised postpartum. All right, when the baby passes through the canal and now the hips have been compromised, those pelvic floor muscles have been elongated and stretched, and it's important postpartum that a woman certainly gets those muscles back to proper function and dynamics to be able to have reduction of incontinence of bladder control and also overall core function if they decide to work out aggressively post having a baby. So we'll have more on that subject next week with a wonderful physical therapist, Marissa Aaron. We're excited to have her here, so be on the lookout for that. Okay? And then we also have your multifidus, which essentially is a muscle that will work zigzag along your lumbar spine, your lower back. Okay, so the multifidus will work here on Sammy, working up the column here. And that's going to provide some of that postural control for your core. So in review, we have our diaphragm, we have our transverse abdominis, we have our pelvic floor and our diaphragm. And now with my wonderful, amazing kindergarten board, I'm going to go ahead and draw it for you to give you a better picture. My wonderful voice of Shelley's going to come out and help me out. Hi, Ella. Cool. So this may look like a really bad charades game after a night of fun and drinking, but what this is actually your pelvis once again. All right. Okay. Pelvis and hip. All right. And we have our spine, and then I didn't have a rib cage for Sammy himself. He lost it in a bad game of poker. So now we're going to go ahead and draw the muscles here of your core. Okay? So we're going to talk about breathing. All right? When we're breathing hard and working out hard, we're generally trying to red the heart rate zone, don't we? So how fitting that we use red for our diaphragm. Okay? Now it sits under the rib cage, but I'm going to draw it anatomically as if it's over. Okay? Our diaphragm. So I'm going to create like a big parachute. All right? I just jumped out of the airplane, and the parachute almost has an upside down U shape. Okay? It'll work just like this. When we inhale, the lungs are under the ribs. This muscle shoots down. We'll compartmentalize your organs down. When you exhale, guess what? How do we get that air out of your lungs? Whoop, comes right back up. So your diaphragm plays a part in breathing. Let me change colors here for the next muscle. Go on. Next, we have our transverse abdominis. Like I said, imagine your muscles working here on the side. So I'm going to draw almost like a U here. And it's going to wrap around your entire torso, beginning from the rib cage, coming down here, all the way along the aspects of your ilium, your hip, and it's on both sides of your body. So as you can see, if I had organs in this box, we're beginning to encapsulate those organs just like so. Good. Next one. Let's go ahead and go with the pelvic floor, right here. Okay? When these muscles essentially begin to do their job properly, they're going to support the bottom of our pubic region, and they're going to hold that bladder. Think about a plastic Publix bag when you go grocery shopping. Well, a bladder very much looks like that, and when it gets filled with liquid, something has to hold the weight of that liquid. So the pelvic floor plays a huge dynamic part in supporting that weighted bladder. Okay? And then we have your multifidus. Like we said, working up your spine just like this. So we have muscles that come from the back to support the spine. We have muscles from the bottom. We have muscles that work parallel on the side. And the diaphragm works from the top. So we can essentially say that this is the anatomical region of your torso and your core. Okay, they have many functions, play a huge part in our daily life anatomically. Okay, I like to say it's a really profound quote that our ability to produce force is also in our capacity to resist it. So we have a couple of examples for that today. Thank you, Ms. Jenny. Now let's go ahead and turn the camera a little bit. So let's think what the trunk can do. The trunk can bend over and flex. The trunk can extend. The trunk can tilt to my right. I can tilt to my left. And my trunk can also rotate. So now that we talked about the primal movements of what the trunk can do, let's talk about how we can resist those movements. So right now, I'm here with, I'll use a nice shiny bright yellow band, okay? So I said that our ability to produce force is in our capacity to also resist it. So right now, I feel tension on the band coming from my personal left side. As I press out, that tension increases because now my hands are 2 feet away from my body. That band wants to pull me to the left, but I am resisting. So my right side musculature is now firing to resist that force from the left. So if I keep doing this exercise, a Pallof press, I'm going to feel decreased and increased loads in that movement. We can intensify that by now doing something that we call a Pallof tomahawk, where we're going up and down, where the entire range of motion, I'm feeling that load, and because it's coming from different angles, my brain has to work dynamically to communicate with my torso where to resist and fight that. Okay? So if that's an anti-rotation move, let's talk about an anti-tilt move. So I'm here walking towards you guys, and this 35-pound kettlebell wants to do this to my torso. Here, it wants to slink me over to the left, but now my right side fires and will isometrically hold me so my shoulders stay even. And now that I dynamically walk towards you, okay, the whole time, this right side is working a little bit harder than my left to counteract that 35-pound dumbbell. I'm going to show you posteriorly. I hold with the right hand. It wants to sink me down, and now I walk away, keeping even shoulders. Okay? Even something as simple as, famously would be a plank, where we're here, we're on our elbows. Gravity wants to draw my hips to the floor, so I work against that. I pelvic tilt, engaging my core muscles, and now I'm resisting that gravitational pull of that wanting to bring my spine into extension, so I stay in flexion. So once again, our ability to produce force in our trunk is also in our capacity to resist it. Okay? So keep that in mind when it comes to force and movement generation. All right? So essentially, that is a layman's terms kindergarten example of what your core is. All right? Commonly, it's known as your torso. The functions are to align the spine, the rib cage, and the pelvis. It's also to provide postural support of that. It's involved with breathing. It's involved with compartmentalization of your organs. It's involved with movement generation and also in transfer of energy. Okay, your diaphragm, transverse abdominis, pelvic floor, multifidus, make those muscles that truly stabilize and resist those forces. For any more information on your core and how we can help you, perhaps you've had a history of low back pain, we are purveyors of good, intelligent core stability movement here. So feel free to reach out to us. And considering our segue for this Friday night with our Elevate movements, we have a whole movement flow, we have slackline, we have acro yoga going on, we have a buffet of all types of bodyweight movements. So we're going to exceptionally enhance and challenge the core this Friday night. If you're interested in coming, 6:39 here at Gravity in Action. That's why we wanted to talk about the core today, and also segueing to next week, we talks about bladder control with females postpartum. On behalf of the entire team here, Haley, Bettina, Dylan, Josh, and everyone here at Gravity in Action, we wish you guys an amazing Tuesday, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully on Friday night at Elevate. Have a good day.